Please would you identify some of the challenges that African business leaders face?
Africa is unique in its problems. It's different from other continents. It's a vibrant, wonderful place. We all love it. But we lack a lot of skills and we lack a lot of training. And people who come into Africa are often surprised by what they have to work with. We found South Africans tend to be a little bit better because most of us are from Africa. I'm a 10th generation African. And South Africans and Africans work very well in Africa. But the world is discovering more and more that Africa is where the future lies, and they're coming into Africa. And we're the kind of people who have to go and find them, the kind of people who can work inside Africa, limited resources, often quite difficult political circumstances, sometimes even difficult military circumstances. And within that, you find the kind of leaders who love challenges, really enjoy working in that kind of environment, have the ability to think on their feet, do things differently. That's who we look for.
How can leaders within African organizations address these challenges?
Leaders in African organizations have to think very carefully of the cultural implications of everything they do. Africa is a mix of very many cultures. You can't offend a culture, and you need to work within that culture. At the same time, leadership in Africa requires the normal things that leadership requires. It requires the science, so people have to have the degrees, but those are far more common these days. Many, many people have MBAs, unlike decades ago when very few people had them. You need to have the empathy that board members need generally, and then you need to have political nous. You need to understand the politics. You can't come onto a board, you can't run a big company unless you understand the politics of where you are. And that's often where appointments fail, is that the people don't have that political nous. And I think the fourth thing I'd like to add is an ability to work with the media. I come from a media background. And working with the media enhances your reputation. You don't just have to work with the media in order to defend accusations. You need to work with the media in order to enhance your share price, the views people have of your company, the way that you deal with everything. If you're doing it inside a media spotlight, you tend to do things correctly. You behave properly because you know it could end up on the front page the next day.
How have African organizations handled their reputation so far?
Inside Africa, people don't worry that much about reputational matters until it hits them in the face, until something they've done explodes. There's so much else going on that the reputational management tends to suffer a little bit until something happens that makes them suddenly realize we've got to deal with this. And my belief is we need to appoint board members and chief executives who right up front think every day when they wake up, how am I going to enhance the reputation of my company? How am I going to make my company look better, sound better, have a better vibe, make people want to come and work for it? That is reputational management as opposed to reputational defense, and that's what we look for.